Now, we're a month into the new administration, and Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is slicing through federal agency after federal agency. Musk and his team appear to be making decisions on what to keep or purge. They offered buyouts to all federal employees and shut down foreign aid. He's gunning for the Consumer Protection Finance Board, and thousands of probationary employees have been fired. Defense spending may be next. Over the years, the deficit has skyrocketed. Nothing else has worked. So, Rick, might this actually get the budget under control?
No. The things that he's cut are relatively small, maybe $2 to $3 billion. But now you add in the NIH money, and maybe you're getting up to $6 to $10 billion. Now, clearly, if he goes after the defense budget, now you're talking about some serious money. But other than that, unless you start attacking things like Medicare and Social Security, you're not going to be able to do this. But we are impacting people's lives around the world and here in the United States with the cuts that we've had. Interestingly enough, if they really wanted to go after saving money, as they've said, the GAO has said that there's maybe a quarter, maybe $500 billion in fraud, but one person's fraud's another person's paycheck. We have to be careful there. And there are improper payments. The government is not very careful. But if it really was about cutting the size of government or bringing the budget under control, then the tax gap is about $500 billion as well. That's the amount of money that our system doesn't collect. And how's Trump going to deal with that? Well, he's calling for cuts to IRS. So I'm not very sympathetic to the claim that this is all about
saving money doesn't seem to be to reduce the deficit. It seems to be to pay for the upcoming extension of the tax cut.
Cuts, yeah.
So is this really about cost reduction, or is this about restructuring the government?
Well, I think it's really about the latter, and it's about claiming more and more power for the executive branch and pushing the limits as far as they can be pushed. But to adopt Nina's frame from a moment ago with regard to these cuts, what the American citizen sees is nothing ever being done about so-called fraud, waste, and debt and deficit. And suddenly something's happening, and even if they know and understand that without touching Medicare and Social Security, you're not going to make, or in defense, you're not going to make it the smallest dent in this, they're seeing something.
And it's called pop pretty well.
Yeah, right. And so between the chainsaw approach, if you watched this coverage from CPAC this week, or the hacksaw or the whatever sledgehammer approach, and then nothing, of course the right answer is somewhere in the middle. But the American public...
Government's been cut before. I mean, the
absolutely
reinventing government, I think it was called during Clinton, they cut hundreds of thousands of people.
Listen, you read my mind, Dave. That's exactly where I want to go. That I don't know that this is the hill that Democrats want to die on, to basically fight for the jobs of bureaucrats when you've got a president elected in part on the promise to go after the deep state and following the lead, as you pointed out, of the Clinton Democratic administration that led to the reduction of 282,000 federal jobs. So we're nowhere near that, as Rick pointed out. However, this is what I'll say. Those cuts happened over a period of 8 years, and 96% of them had to do with the military's civilian personnel. Here we just see this, bull in a china shop approach that is erratic, that's unstrategic, and that doesn't seem to be very clearly connected to what works. The reason there was the cut during the Clinton and Gore years in the military is because of the end of the Cold War. What is the rationale here? What's driving it? We don't know, other than we need to cut.
Well, they've also failed audits for 7 years in a row. So there's some wasteful spending, at least. I think there's a big difference between fraud and wasteful spending and misallocation of funds. So bringing in, and I can't believe there's not a meme or a deep fake of Elon Musk on a wrecking ball coming in as Miley Cyrus.
It's coming.
I just can't believe it. But that's what's happening is they are shining a spotlight, at the very least in some people's eyes, on the wasteful mismanagement of taxpayer money.
But
Well-
waste is.
Wait till
I-
people don't get their IRS refunds on time because of the cuts in IRS. Wait until farmers are affected by some of these policies. Right now, the public is in favor of many of these things because we're saving, it looks like we're saving money and there's no impact on them. But eventually, many of these things are going to impact.
One person's waste may
That's
be
right.
another
Right.
person's important
That's what I said,
program.
it's somebody else's paycheck. And so this will
Right, but that's why I don't think Democrats should wait until the boom lowers. How about spend all of your energy talking about the likely impact in very specific ways now? Fighting for folks across the globe is not going to be it, but showing what's going to happen.
What Democrats? Where are they?
Yeah.
I don't even, they're hard to find.
100%.
Now, what just quickly about this idea of cutting all probationary employees? I mean, what does that lead to?
That's it.
Disruption.
But it's easy. They're probationary, so they haven't had any impact to begin with. That's why they haven't been hired permanently. So you made it without them all this time.
But
I
we-
agree with that. We're not going to start to really feel these impacts for several months, and then maybe people will be frustrated. But for now, people don't seem to be unhappy about it.
They haven't felt the disruption yet.
Right.
It has been polling well,
Right.
as we say. Cut the government and the deep state, I guess.